guys, back again. Going to talk a little bit about how I'm going to prevent myself from freezing to death. Um so I am going to, number one, I'm going to have a cell phone. There'll be plenty of opportunities for me to use my cell phone and check the weather forecast. If it's going to be super cold, snow and ice, I'm just going to get off the trail and get a hotel. I don't imagine that's going to happen too often, but if it does, that's what my plan is. Nowadays, a couple of days out, we've got a pretty good, even a week out, we know what's going to happen with the weather, especially if it's going to be significant enough for snow and that kind of things. So yeah, I'm getting off the trail for that. As far as clothing and shelter goes, I'll be for shelter. My number one choice is going to be to sleep in the established shelters along the trail. There are several of those throughout the whole thing. Most of them are made out of wood. There are some that are made out of stone, but that'll be my first choice, so that I don't have to mess with my tent. But I for the cold weather months, I will be carrying my tent. When it warms up, I hope to be using my hammock. But yeah, I have a tent, and that's my shelter. As far as clothing goes, while I'm hiking, my clothes that I'll be wearing for my hiking, while I'm hiking, it's just going to be the basic stuff. I'll be wearing layers to control my body heat. It's going to get hot. If I wear a lot of layers, I won't be able to let all that moisture and heat away. So yeah, I'll be wearing typical stuff, and I'll have my rain gear and all my layers that I can add or subtract. Sleeping gear. I have a down quilt, and I have a down quilt and a synthetic quilt. My down quilt is rated for down to 20 degrees, and my synthetic quilt is rated to down to 50 degrees. I'm going to, in February and early March, I'll be using both of those in tandem. They will both be keeping me. But using both of those quilts together, the 20 degree quilt and the 50 degree quilt, Enlightened Equipment, on their website, they say that using both of those together brings it down to a 0 degree rating. As far as clothes, when I'm sleeping, I'll be wearing long johns, warm socks, a down balaclava. For my pad that goes underneath, you have to have a pad underneath you, because a lot of your body heat gets lost from the ground. Or if you're sleeping in a shelter, there's cracks between the planks and cold air coming up and sucking the heat out of you. The ground works like a heat sink on your body. So if you're sleeping in a tent on the ground, if you're sleeping in a hammock in the cold, that's even worse, because it gets really cold. The air circulating under your body, and you have to carry extra insulation for that. But my sleeping pad that I'm going to be using, I'm using two of them. I've got the Cascade brand one from Costco. That one has worked really well for me in the past, and I'm going to carry that with me initially on the AT. Also, I have an 1/8 inch closed foam pad that I'm using for several different things, not just for sleeping, but it's a sit pad and kind of like a picnic blanket or something if I need something to sit on that's waterproof, and a little bit of padding. That thing is going to be great. And I also have a inflatable pillow made by Sea to Summit that I'm using. Frostbite. So avoiding that. Number one, I'm going to watch the weather forecast. I'm going to keep up with that. Yeah, I've done a little bit of research on frostbite and what it is, and I mean, it makes perfect sense, but it sounds really gross. Like literally, your cells are freezing. The fluid inside of your cells are freezing, and some people will like to rub where they think you got frostbite. You can't do that. You can't rub frostbite, because you're just grinding all those crystals and popping all the cells in your body. Makes things worse. So yeah, not going to get frostbite if I can get away with it. So I'm going to avoid that by wearing warm clothing. I imagine that I would be more likely to get frostbite while I'm hiking as opposed to in my tent protected from the elements. So I wearing my warm clothing that I talked about before, and also making sure that I keep my core warm. I've got some gloves that I'm going to wear. I've got some possum down and some rain mittens. I can keep the cold and wet off of my hands. I've got some socks that I love. I love to wear down tough. I'll wear the thickest ones I can. And when if it's raining, I'm probably going to put bread bags over my socks before I put my shoes on. Yeah, I'll have sweaty feet, but my sweat is a lot warmer than wearing than the rain that's falling in on them or stepping in a puddle. As far as headgear goes, I'll be carrying this hat, and if it gets really cold, I'll probably wear my Columbia beanie. I've got a buff that I can put on my neck. My jacket has a hood. If it gets super cold, again, if it gets so cold I have to wear all my layers, then it's time to get off the trail for a little bit until it warms up. But I do have that down balaclava, and that's pretty dang warm. This is my sit pad. It's a 1/8 inch pad. This is 6 feet long, about a little bit wider than my shoulders. It's really lightweight. It's squishy, and this will be the bottom layer when I'm sleeping. This will be my bottom layer. Sleeping pad, my inflatable sleeping pad. This is my quilt. It is made by Enlightened Equipment. It's got downfill. It's got it opens up to like a flat quilt, just like any quilt. And then it's got a little zipper here that makes a foot box, and then drawstrings here to close up cinch up the foot side of the quilt, make it kind of like a sleeping bag. But the whole purpose of having a quilt as opposed to a sleeping bag is to save some weight, because really on a sleeping bag, the part that you lay down on, it gets compressed, and it doesn't help. It just adds weight to carry. It's your pad that actually gives you the insulation from the ground. And this is my inflatable pillow. It's about to get really hot inside of this quilt, so I'll be quick about this. So yeah, let's get in right there, and that keeps everything around you tucked under. I like the quilt because I'm a side sleeper, and I like these straps because they keep the blanket on me, keep it from shifting around. And man, it is super toasty in here. It is time to get out already. So anybody that's worried about me, I'm good. It's going to be so warm in this. It's actually quite comfortable. So yeah, that's how you keep warm on the AT.